The room next to mine. 1.1 Jack's first day at uni. Jack, the country boy from Ballarat with striking blonde hair, piercing blue eyes and faintly pink lips, felt both excited and overwhelmed as he stepped off the train in Clayton. It was his first day at Monash University. He'd been staring out the window for the past hour, trying to act calm while his chest swirled with nerves. The closer he got to the city, the more unfamiliar everything became. Roads with trams, buildings taller than grain silos, people walking fast like they all knew exactly where they were going. Jack didn't, not really. He'd dreamt of this since year 10, leaving behind the slow, repetitive rhythm of country life and starting fresh somewhere no one knew him. But now that he was here, duffel bag slung over his shoulder, hands trembling slightly, it felt more real than he was ready for. At the gates of campus, he paused and watched. Waves of students swarmed past, laughing, reuniting, already settling in. Some had families helping them with suitcases. Others walked like they belonged. Jack shifted his weight, swallowed, and took a slow breath. He clutched the campus map on his phone and made his way to the student housing office. His boots thudded quietly against the concrete, out of rhythm with the quick shuffle of sneakers and the whir of bike wheels all around him. Inside the housing office, a woman handed him a key and a slip of paper. "Private shared apartment," she said. 2-bedroom. You'll be living with another student. We don't list names, sorry. Jack nodded, murmured thanks, and stepped outside, staring at the tag dangling from his key like it might tell him something more. After a short walk and a bit of confusion, he found the unit. The door opened with a soft click. Inside, it was neat and quiet. Clean kitchen, modest couch, a small table with 2 chairs tucked beneath it. 2 bedroom doors. One still shut, the other clearly untouched. Jack stepped into his new room and dropped his bag on the floor. His heart hadn't slowed down. He hadn't seen anyone else yet. The other door remained closed. Maybe his roommate hadn't arrived, or maybe they were out. Or maybe Jack was early. He didn't know. But he did know one thing. He was here. Alone. For the first time. And the quiet of that truth settled around him like fog. He lay down on the bed, fully clothed, shoes still on, and stared at the ceiling. 1.2 James's arrival and first impressions. Later that day, James picked up his key from the same housing office. His train had been delayed. The woman behind the counter barely looked up when she handed him the room code. "Private shared apartment," she said flatly. "You'll be with another student. No names. Rooms on this sheet." James didn't mind. He didn't care who he was sharing with. He just hoped it wasn't someone annoying. The door opened easily. Someone was already there. A duffel bag sat outside one of the rooms. There were faint signs of life. A cupboard closed gently, the soft creak of a mattress. James moved quietly. He didn't linger. He stepped into the second bedroom, shut the door behind him, and let out a breath. He hadn't seen the other guy. Not really, just a presence, a shadow. 1.3, first campus glance. James wasn't looking for anyone, not consciously. He was walking back from his first lecture, half distracted by his phone and a mate talking about electives, when someone caught the edge of his vision. A boy, walking across the courtyard, hoodie sleeves pulled over his hands. He moved with quiet purpose, shoulders relaxed, posture upright, like someone who didn't want to be noticed, even though his presence quietly filled the space. His head tilted slightly down, but the sun caught his hair, blonde, soft, almost too neat, and in one absent motion the boy ran his fingers through it, like he didn't even know he was doing it. James's chest tightened for no reason he could explain. There was nothing flashy about the guy, no designer hoodie, no exaggerated confidence, but something in the quietness stopped James cold. Their eyes met. Just a second, but long enough to leave a small echo in James's chest. He kept walking, pretending he hadn't noticed. His friend kept talking beside him, but James didn't hear a word. He was still thinking about that boy. about the way he moved, about the flicker of tension in his fingers, like he was holding something in. 1.4. Missing each other, sensing each other. Jack hadn't seen his roommate yet. 2 full days in Clayton, and the other guy was practically a ghost. There were traces, closed doors, a fresh towel in the bathroom, fridge magnets subtly rearranged, but no face, no voice. Just the quiet evidence of another person. They kept missing each other. Jack would leave too early or return too late. Once, he thought he heard someone moving in the kitchen, but by the time he stepped out, the place was empty. He didn't mind the space. Still, the curiosity was there, like a faint background hum. Who was this guy? Loud, laid back? Would he even say hi when they finally crossed paths? Jack was letting the thought drift when he saw him again. The boy from the courtyard. That same sharp presence. Loose, confident stride. Dark hair. Eyes focused ahead like the world just unfolded for him. They'd passed a few times now. Near the lawn, outside the library, by the coffee cart near the IT building. Each time there was a flicker of recognition, a moment where their eyes almost held. Then they'd look away, like it hadn't happened. Jack wasn't staring, not really, just noticing. And the boy, James, though Jack didn't know that yet, was doing the same. 1.5. James's growing fixation. James didn't usually fixate on people. He liked to keep things light, avoid getting pulled into things too quickly. But the blonde guy with the quiet eyes and soft shoulders, something about him had taken root. He'd seen him again that morning, sitting alone under a tree near the business faculty, sipping coffee like he was trying not to be noticed. He wore that same hoodie, the sleeves bunched slightly at the wrists, hands wrapped around the paper cup like he needed the warmth. There was a stillness to him, not bored, just self-contained, like he carried a whole story behind his silence. James didn't know why he kept looking, but once he noticed the way the boy ran his fingers through his hair, almost nervously, it stuck. He spotted him a few more times, outside a lecture theatre, in the queue at the campus cafe. Once, by the vending machine, leaning against the wall with his eyes closed like he was trying to disappear. Each time, James pretended not to notice, but he had. Sometimes, Jack caught James looking first. Other times, James's gaze lingered too long before snapping away. They hadn't spoken, not even once, and strangely, that made it worse. James had no idea that every night, just on the other side of his bedroom wall, that same boy sat quietly in his own thoughts, so close, yet still a stranger. 1.6. The night tension builds. On the 3rd night, Jack came back from a late session in the library to find the bathroom light on. The mirror was still fogged with steam. He paused at the door, listening. No footsteps, no sound. He stepped back and walked silently to his room, heart beating faster than it needed to. On the other side of the wall, James sat on his bed, towel around his neck, earbuds in, scrolling through music but not hearing any of it. Something about this week had him all twisted up. Neither of them knew the other was thinking about them. Neither of them knew just how close they were. 2 quiet rhythms pulsing behind 2 thin walls. 1.7. The hoodie moment. The bathroom still held the warmth of a recent shower when James stepped in, damp hair clinging to his temples. He paused, eyes narrowing at the dark green hoodie hanging from the back of the door. It wasn't his. It must have belonged to his roommate, whoever he was. They hadn't met, not yet. And after 3 days of sidestepping each other like ghosts in the same apartment, it was starting to feel intentional. He glanced at the hoodie again. It was simple. Faded at the seams, the cuffs slightly frayed. But something about it, maybe the way it still held a faint warmth, maybe the familiarity of worn cotton, made him hesitate. He reached out, slowly, almost without thinking. His fingers brushed the fabric, pulling it close, just enough to catch a scent. It wasn't cologne, just something clean, soap. Fabric softener, something earthy, like timber floors or sun-warmed sheets. Familiar and distant at the same time. James blinked. Let go. He stepped back like he'd touched something too intimate, too personal, like the hoodie had bitten him. It's just a hoodie, he muttered under his breath. But something in his chest refused to settle. He turned off the light and left, trying not to think about why he'd needed to touch it in the first place. 1.8. Jack's growing curiosity. Jack lay in bed, blanket pulled up to his chest, headphones in but not playing anything. He was listening, not in a creepy way, just curious. The soft closing of the front door. A cupboard shutting, the fridge humming back to life. His roommate moved like smoke, there and gone. Jack had almost seen him once. The bathroom door had clicked shut just as he opened his own. He froze, hoodie half on, heartbeat thudding like he was about to get caught. But the guy never came out. He backed into his room again, tugging the hoodie over his head with a quiet sigh. His thoughts drifted to the boy he kept seeing around campus, the one with the dark hair and the way of walking like he belonged everywhere and nowhere all at once, the one whose eyes lingered too long, but only when he thought no one noticed. That made 5 sightings in 3 days. 5. Jack wasn't obsessed, just aware. Uncomfortably aware, like when a song gets stuck in your head and refuses to leave. Their eyes had met again. Longer this time, not a full stare. Just long enough for Jack to wonder if he'd imagined the weight of it. He didn't understand what it meant. He'd always liked girls. He still did. Right? But there was something in that glance, like the other boy had seen a part of him Jack hadn't shown anyone. And despite himself, despite the confusion and the swirl of questions, he wanted to be seen again. 1.9. Near misses and silent awareness. They kept missing each other. One would walk in as the other stepped out. A half-opened fridge, a light left on, a faint scent lingering in the hallway. Ghosts of moments, never overlapping. But they kept seeing each other everywhere else. A glance in the hallway outside the lecture theatre, a near collision by the vending machines. Jack once turned too fast near the cafe and nearly ran into him. Their eyes met. Jack mumbled an apology and disappeared before James could speak. James watched him go, heart tugging in a quiet, annoying way. Why did he care? Why did he keep noticing? It was just some guy, some quiet guy, with messy blonde hair and piercing blue eyes like a summer sky. Neither of them knew that behind those thin apartment walls, just a metre apart, they lay awake most nights, thoughts knotted around the same question. Who is he? 1.10. The bathroom glimpse. The door clicked shut behind James as he stepped into the flat, hoodie damp from a light drizzle, and sleep still clinging to his thoughts. He dropped his bag near the couch and headed down the hall, rubbing the back of his neck. Then stopped. The bathroom door was slightly open. Steam drifted out, curling softly through the hallway. Inside, the gentle rustle of a towel moving through wet hair broke the quiet. James didn't mean to look, but something in the air, warm, heavy, private, held him there. Through the gap, he saw a back, just that. A lean stretch of bare skin, pale shoulders, damp hair clinging to the nape of a neck. The boy moved slowly, towel in hand, arms raised as he dried his hair with the kind of ease that came from thinking you were alone. James didn't breathe. He didn't see a face, just a body caught in the afterglow of a shower, half veiled in steam. It should have meant nothing. But something about the way the light hit his skin, soft, golden, made it hard to look away. Then panic kicked in. James turned quickly and disappeared into his room without a sound. The door clicked shut behind him. He leaned against it, eyes wide, trying to steady his breath. What the hell was that? He hadn't seen anything, not really, just a back, just a boy, his roommate. Probably. He rubbed his hands over his face, shook his head. He liked girls. He always had. So why was his chest tight? Why couldn't he stop picturing the way that boy had moved? The quiet strength in his shoulders, the steam trailing off his skin. He sat on the edge of his bed, palms flat on the blanket. He didn't even know his name. But whoever he was, he'd just left James feeling like something inside him had shifted. Quietly, deeply, and without permission. 1.11, Jack in bed, freedom and solitude. Jack lay naked on his bed. Morning sun warm against his bare skin. Sheets kicked off, legs stretched out, eyes half closed in the quiet. He'd never been able to do this in Ballarat. Not with two younger brothers banging on the door. Not with his dad yelling about the kettle. Not with his mum walking in unannounced. Here, though, he was alone completely. He let out a slow breath and ran a hand through his hair. The silence was different here. Not empty, just his. He thought about the gym timetable. He hadn't trained yet this week, but he would. Martial arts had always grounded him. It wasn't about fighting. It was control, breath, space, something he'd learned from his uncle as a kid. He didn't talk about it. Most people didn't ask. But it was in the way he moved, the way he stood, the calm underneath the nerves. This place was his now, even if it didn't feel like home yet. Soon. 1.12, New friends and small talk. After a painfully slow intro lecture, Jack found himself lingering outside the Student Union cafe with two guys he'd just met. Liam was loud, quick to laugh, and already talked like they were best mates. Arjun was quieter, sharp, a bit sarcastic, the kind of guy who noticed everything but didn't always say it. "You're from the country?" Liam asked, sliding his sunglasses down to squint at Jack. "No way. What was it like? Did you grow up in a paddock or something?" Jack laughed. "Pretty much. Dust, cows, muddy boots. My mum yelling about muddy boots." "Sounds romantic," Arjun deadpanned, sipping his coffee. "It was muddy," Jack said, grinning. Still, Liam shrugged, nodding with approval. "I respect it." "Bet you could wrestle a kangaroo if you had to." Jack smirked. "Only if it asks nicely." They laughed. It was easy, uncomplicated. Jack hadn't realized how much he missed this. Just being around people who didn't expect anything from him. No reputation, no baggage. Just a name and a smile and a seat at the table. Liam was already talking about joining a futsal team. Arjun muttered something about hating group assignments. Jack listened, nodded, added a joke here and there. Nothing too deep, but it didn't have to be. For the first time since arriving in Clayton, the world didn't feel so sharp around the edges. He took a slow sip of coffee, eyes drifting across campus. Students streamed past, laughing, texting, rushing off to lectures they were probably already late for. Jack let the moment sit. A warm breeze stirred the edge of his hoodie. Arjun asked something about electives. Liam threw in another joke. Jack laughed without thinking. It wasn't much, but it felt like a start. 1.13, James's quiet observation. That night, the flat was quiet again. The usual signs of life were there. A laptop charger plugged in near the couch, a new pair of runners by the front door, the faint hum of someone showering behind the bathroom door. James stood in the kitchen, hoodie on, sipping cold water straight from the glass. His bare feet made no sound against the tiles. He hadn't meant to glance toward the bathroom when the water stopped, but he did. Just a glance, just enough to tell someone was moving behind the door. He didn't know what he expected, maybe nothing. But the moment stretched too long. The air felt too still. The hum of the bathroom fan suddenly too loud. He turned and left before someone stepped out. Not because he was scared, but because seeing him, really seeing him, felt like a line he wasn't ready to cross. 1.14, Gym Silent Admiration. The next day, campus gym. James lingered near the entrance, the scent of rubber mats and faint sweat thick in the air. He pretended to check his phone, earbuds dangling unused. His eyes drifted past rows of treadmills until they landed on him. Jack. On the mats, barefoot, a thin sheen of sweat catching the afternoon light across his arms. His hair was damp at the ends, clinging to his temples. Every movement was controlled. Fists snapping out in clean, sharp jabs, feet shifting like he'd done this his whole life. James's breath slowed unconsciously. He couldn't look away. The way Jack moved was hypnotic, precise but unshowy, strong but quiet, like he was fighting ghosts only he could see. There was a softness in his face between punches, a flicker of something almost sad, like the weight of the day was bleeding out through his knuckles. James shifted behind a squat rack to stay hidden. His pulse beat hard in his throat. He kept telling himself to leave to start his own workout, but his feet wouldn't move. Every time Jack pivoted or reset his stance, James's eyes followed, soaking in the way his muscles tensed and relaxed. A few students passed between them, but James barely noticed. He was memorizing details, the faint scuff marks on Jack's shorts, the rise and fall of his chest, the small grimace of concentration when a combo didn't land perfectly. Jack paused to stretch, arching his back, arms overhead. His t-shirt clung to his ribs, revealing the lean strength underneath. James felt a rush of warmth flood his face and looked away, ashamed of how intensely he was staring. He tried to remind himself he liked girls. He always had. But right now, with Jack so close yet unreachable, his certainty frayed. From where he stood, he could hear the soft slap of Jack's feet on the mat, each exhale, each quiet grunt of effort. The sounds felt intimate, more private than they should. James imagined what Jack looked like up close, the smell of his skin, the heat rolling off his body. His chest ached with something he couldn't name. He felt unsteady on his feet. Jack wiped sweat from his brow, then gathered his gear and slung a towel over his shoulder. He didn't see James as he stepped off the mats, but James caught one last glimpse of his eyes that looked both determined and lonely, before he disappeared into the change rooms. James let out a shaky breath. He had watched the whole time, and he wanted more. 1.15, final scene, just out of reach. The apartment was dim and quiet. James stepped inside, dropping his damp hoodie near the door. The hallway light was off, but the bathroom door was open a crack, warm steam curling out like breath. And then he saw him, just a flash, a figure crossing the hallway from bathroom to bedroom, fully naked, towel modestly clutched in front, back damp and gleaming from the shower. Blonde hair darkened at the ends, shoulders wide and relaxed, a body moving with quiet, unthinking confidence. James froze. The boy didn't see him, didn't even glance his way. He moved like he was alone, like he belonged in this space, and maybe he did. The door closed softly behind him, leaving only the faint sound of water dripping, and James's own heartbeat thudding in his ears. He leaned back against the wall, exhaling slowly. It was him. The boy from campus, the library, the gym. All this time, the one James couldn't stop noticing, the stranger he kept catching glimpses of, kept trying not to think about, had been living behind the other door in this flat. His roommate. And now James had seen him fully and couldn't unsee it. The strong lines of his back, the way his hand ran through his hair without thinking, the easy rhythm of his walk, the scent that still lingered faintly in the air, the one James had been trying not to recognize. He closed his eyes and pressed his fingers to his temple. He didn't know this boy. Didn't know his name, his major, his voice. But something about him had already taken root in James's chest, and now it was growing. And for the first time, James wasn't sure who he was when no one else was watching.